Welcome to the Evidence of Impact series brought to you by Scottsdale Community College's Center for Teaching and Learning. Today's video will be about purpose, helping students plot their course, an MCLI learning grant project by Andrea Scherer, counseling faculty, Betsy Ivester, geology faculty, Walter Olson, justice studies faculty, Robert Martin, nutrition faculty, Brian Davis, communication faculty, Sarah Reese, learning facilitator at the CTL, and Lisa Young, CTL faculty director. Mark Milliron has stated, it's almost impossible to succeed in education without being willing to do the hard work of asking why you're on the educational journey in the first place. This project supports the study of aiding students in the reflection upon their purpose for taking college-level courses and pursuing a degree or certificate. The project will look at the scholarship of teaching and learning around purpose, looking at the literature and existing practices, developing and implementing activities to aid students in their identification of their purpose, and evaluating the impact of these activities in regard to student retention and student success.
Well, most of my students are not geology majors, so they are coming into the class with maybe not as much interest or not feeling it means as much to them or has a reason for taking it besides just a requirement. So hopefully after having taken geology, they do see some of the connections with geology and their lives.
Well, first, I think it's interesting that I was able to participate in this purpose committee. The folks on the committee and everyone are just utterly amazing. It was interesting. The research shows that a lot of young people are looking for their purpose, and it's interesting because I found my purpose here at Scottsdale Community College. I was a student here when a teacher put their wing around me and offered me some advice and some counsel on maybe a choice that I could make as far as a career and those kinds of things. So I think we as teachers have a significant responsibility or role in at least trying to help students find their purpose.
Purpose has always been something that in the CPD Strategies for College Success class I find to be kind of something I consider to be an anchor concept. So I've always addressed purpose, but with this particular grant and this particular project, I've cleaned it up. So there have been specific assignments that I can look at, and that the data that we've gathered has helped me look at it in a more organized way, and I've specifically added a component to many of my standing assignments where I bring them back to purpose. So it's really kind of made the experience of assessing students' purpose even better because it's been more organized and I'm getting specific answers to questions related to purpose that I can assess.
So I teach in the occupational programs here at Scottsdale Community College and in the criminal justice program, and so I think purpose is maybe easier for me in some respects to help find for my students. What I like to do is, after having been a part of this committee, is actually have conversations about purpose. We start the semester with some conversations about it, and then in the course of the semester it comes up as well. And then I've done things like had people come and be guest speakers that work in the industry and talk to the students about their careers, their life, and their choices. Another thing I've done is I've started to have my students wear police uniforms with the shirts to get some sense of what it's like to wear the uniform, thinking that that might make them or inspire them possibly to pursue that as a career or a business. But again, it's those conversations about purpose that they don't necessarily always get from me, but from other people that visit the classroom, wearing the uniforms, role-playing. We do quite a bit of role-playing in my classes. My hope is that it inspires the students to think about a career in criminal justice and gives them a purpose. Because, again, I found my purpose while I was attending Scottsdale Community College, and it was because of the mentoring of a teacher.
The concepts and theories of self-concept, communicating self-concept, perception, self-perception, all those things is a conduit for the idea of purpose. So they're already kind of talking about it in a roundabout way. And I think what I learned is that there is a way to kind of go in there through that roundabout way and ask very specific questions about purpose. So they're already kind of talking. It's like they're already opened up. They've already opened up and started talking about who they are, how they see themselves. So why not ask that more in-depth question about, why are you in school? What's your purpose? What's the end goal? What's the end game? And all those sorts of things. So, like I said, unlike everybody else, nutrition, criminal justice, all those different areas, you're not necessarily looking at self-concept and who you are as much. You're not talking about, well, I often make this joke, communication is talking about talking. And so I was lucky in that I just had to ask some very specific questions in order to just slightly alter it.
Well, I think one of the biggest impacts was doing the pre-survey allowed me to get to know my students sooner, sort of see the diversity of their backgrounds, what they're interested in, what their goals are, and really allowed me to tailor some of the examples I use to talk about geology to things that they might be interested in.
And I think the biggest thing that I noticed between, the first sort of the pre-survey and the assignment they did and then the final assignment that they're working on is that they really sort of looked at how they handle conflict. And most of them, when they were, talking about how they handled it before and after, they really sort of were like, oh my God, I didn't really handle it that well. And I didn't look at it from a multi-layered perspective. I sort of had one tunnel vision like examination of it. So that was really interesting because in my assignment, it was, a friend of yours doesn't think that, you should go back to school and you're having a conflict with them about this. And so it was just interesting to hear them, read about, what they were talking about in that difference.